Meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees called to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abraham?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Uhrig?
Yes.
And Kish is here. I have the February 22nd meeting minutes from the Amherst Township Trustee meeting. The meeting was called to order at 7 p.m. by Lynch. There was a pledge to the flag. Roll call. Abraham, Lynch, Uhrig, and Kish were present. Also in attendance, K. Smarsh, G. Lynch, L. Ashley, C. Neihart, and J. Wilhelm. 2522, a motion by Uhrig, seconded by Abraham, to approve the February 8th, 2022 meeting minutes as read. All ayes. 2622, a motion by Uhrig, seconded by Abraham, to approve that the January 2022 credit card account transaction detail has been reviewed per policy and is accepted as presented, subject to investigation. Roll call. Uhrig. Abraham, ayes. Lynch, abstain. Trustee Uhrig noted that the credit card account detail included convention expenses for Georgie Ann Lynch, a township employee on township business. 2722, a motion by Abraham, seconded by Uhrig. Move to approve the bills and financial reports with reservations. All ayes. Trustee Lynch gave a short overview of the latest news regarding the ARPA funds learned at the Lorain County Township Association meeting. Under audience concerns, Chief Wilhelm brought copies of the preliminary draft for the new contract with the City of Amherst for fire and EMS services. A discussion also ensued regarding the status of siren-based traffic signal preempters at intersections. Under correspondence, Fiscal Officer Kish noted 4 pieces of correspondence received today for public records requests. 2 pieces were forwarded to the zoning inspector for his assistance, and the other 2 were discussed on how to respond prior to the meeting. Trustee Lynch noted packets contain information regarding the Hampshire Farms TIF project and asked for representation from the township at the upcoming meeting on March 22nd, 2022. 2822, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, to appoint David Uhrig to Tax Incentive Review Council for Hampshire Farms Tax Incentive Financing Project. All ayes. Trustee Lynch noted that April 26, 2022 will be the bid opening for the Dewey Road project for Park Avenue North to North Ridge resurfacing. Under reports, under Road, Park, and Cemetery, Road Superintendent Smarsh reported things have been running smoothly. Darrell will not be available for township work for the next month and a half, and Rex will be getting a call to come on board to help out in his absence. 2922, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Adoption of general rules and regulations setting standards and requirements for engineer standards for street development in Amherst Township and rescinding all previous resolutions regarding street development. All ayes. Township Administrator. Administrator Ashley noted being contacted by Wreaths Across America to include the cemeteries in Amherst Township for wreaths on veterans' graves at Christmas time. The legal notice was run for the bid books for the bid opening for South Dewey Road on April 26th. Under Lurco, it has taken over the sanitary sewer for Cinnamon Lake and is constructing a force main from the West Salem Treatment Facility to Cinnamon Lake Community. Phase 2 permit, working on community grant for the next phase of Batten House Ditch. It is due March 31st, 2022. Under complaints, they are being handled by the designated individuals. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. 21022, a motion by Abraham, seconded by Uhrig, to adjourn at 8:20 p.m. All ayes.
Are there any changes or corrections to the February 22nd meeting minutes?
I have none.
If not, can I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved. Second.
Abraham?
Yes.
Uhrig?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes. And Chris, I
Yes,
do
sir.
want to make a change in the agenda, is we do have Amherst Fire Chief Wilhelm here and Fire Prevention Officer Chris Neihart. The chief has some information he wants to present. He can't stay late for the meeting. And I've also asked him to stay on as we go over a resolution and some data for our most recent calls for fire and EMS. But just realize if we get too long, he's going to have to leave. And then since I do see a group of residents here, we'll give them the opportunity to come in before we start in the financials.
Okay.
And just for everyone else, Brett, you're welcome to stay for the whole meeting. We just want to try and make it easy so you're not through here, which for some people may seem like a lot of detail and data that doesn't immediately impact you, or maybe you don't care to hear. So with that first, Chief Wilhelm, if you want to cover the items you wanted to bring forward to the trustees.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I received an email from the Turnpike, and it came out of Berea Post over there, and it was from the secretary to the safety service manager of the Ohio Turnpike. And it was regarding a pay scale and for services. And I'm like, I've never seen this. I have not. So I got on the phone and I called her and I asked her. I said, where did this paperwork come from about the pay scale and stuff? And she goes, well, you signed that 5 years ago. I said, no, I didn't sign anything 5 years ago. So she said, well, let me go pull it up and I'll show you. So she went and pulled it up and she goes, well, you're not Chief Noel. I said, no. Well, he signed it. Well, he never said anything to any of us, you know, and he left abruptly. So for 5 years, we could have been able to collect stuff out there. Now, it's not on a scale of what we feel is fair and equitable. It's the FEMA schedule. But at least it's something. So we can get a return on vehicle fires out there, whether it's commercial or car fire or commercial vehicle fire. And by the way, I did write one for a commercial truck that we had on fire in the Vermilion Valley Plaza. And lo and behold, it took like 4 days, and I received a check from the Ohio Turnpike for $619.30. And that, it's not a lot, but it's a start, you know? And as long as we go out there and we keep track of this stuff, I can't double dip, you know? I could say, well, you know, it's got my name on it, but I'm gonna sign it and give it to her, because this is the township, it's where the fire was at. So it's up to you guys to do whatever you want with it. But from now on, when we have fires out there, when we have spills out there, they have money to cover this stuff. So I'm going to be collecting for it, writing it up and collecting it. Now also along that line, I know we talked before about accidents and fires on the roadway here. You know, we go out to, let's say, a car fire at 58 and 113. And let's say it was from somebody that lived in Norwalk. We can go after their insurance company and bill them for the use of the fire equipment and stuff. It becomes a matter between, it doesn't go directly to the insured person, it goes to the insurance company. And that's where you saw down there in Columbus where they have the billing companies, and that's what we're doing. And now, as a matter of fact, you had asked me if anybody else around here was doing it. Oberlin's been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. So, you know, we're not alone in this stuff, so. But, yeah, it's getting to that point where, you know, the cost of equipment and everything, and I agree with Denny, you don't want to go after either a resident of the township or a resident of the city of Amherst, because they're paying taxes. So that will be excluded. They do, however, they do have a soft bill. So let's say, you know, like, I'll give you for instance, we go on a lot of false alarms. You know, we tell people, you know, hey, you need to get your alarm fixed. You know, because every time we run, money, big money, you know. I mean, we've gone on some alarms at Nordson, you know that, and, you know, we're talking $1,200-1,500 just to go up there and say, it's nothing, you know, so. We could actually put a little sting in that and say, okay, you know, we'll give you 3, but after that 3rd one, you're going to get charged like $150. I'll give you the incentive to get that alarm fixed, you know. So that's another option that we have to do. The police do it now. They go on these burglar alarm drops all the time, and first thing they ask is, how many is this year? And dispatcher will tell them, well, I got a record here of like 4 for this year. So they write them a citation. But that's, you know, the other end of it would be that, you know, like on homeowners insurance policies. The minute that you get a homeowner's insurance for your home, there's a $500 fire department allotment of money that's in that. You're not taking it out of your wallet. You're not, you know, you're not being, it's there. You're paying for it. And the best way to explain this is, do you know these big companies, they always have these retreats and stuff that they send people on. You know, they go to Hawaii, they go to Vegas, you know, and everybody in the company go. Insurance companies are really good for that. You know why? Because some people don't collect that money, and it just sits there, and they draw all the interest on it and everything. It's already in the account. It's there to be used. So if you don't use it, you know, they go have fun on it. So why not use it? Residential is $500, and if you all look at your homeowner's policy, it's probably at the top, for fires. It says $500. A commercial building is $1,200, and it's all allotted in there for that reason. If you have a fire, doesn't mean that they're going to, you know, kick you out of the insurance thing. They might, I don't know. It depends on, you know, but it's there. It's there for the taking. Just like this thing with the turnpike. This money it goes into account. It's a reimbursement fund. It was set up in a resolution for the turnpike, 56-2016. That's when it was passed. So money's there. All we got to do is ask for it. And as long as the record keeping is good, and we send them the copies that they want, this is what's going to happen. They're going to send checks to us, so why not?
Chief, that's good news. Did they send you a copy of the agreement of what was signed?
I have a copy of it right here.
Okay, so did it help to get a copy of that?
You can have a copy of it, correct.
Okay, and just so that my fellow trustees are aware, when Chief Wilhelm had actually come to our township administrator to discuss this and asked to be on the agenda and get on early, I'd called Jim to let him know we'd get things adjusted. We didn't have time to change the agenda because it was already printed. But I'd share with the chief, and I'm going to assume it was back in 2003, probably when we got the new tanker truck. But at that time, we were having a lot of incidences up on the turnpike, and I specifically tried to get the turnpike thinking they need to cover these costs, especially at the plaza, and their legal advisor let us know in no uncertain terms
Yes. Well,
that
see,
they're
at one
treated no
time,
different than any resident, and that they were not going to pay for it. So that's, I mean, this is good news.
yes,
Because we had that one large fuel spill up there, and that really cost the township a lot of money.
when was that a couple of years ago?
I think, yeah, it's been within the last few years. It wasn't just recent,
Yes,
but I
yes.
remember the bill was pretty big.
If it's probably my fault. If I had known that we had this, I would have went after it.
Yeah.
It's my
Now there's some stipulations in this thing too. You know, don't think that they're going to jump up and pay you 10 grand. They might, but they went through the current FEMA labor rates, and the commission will provide reimbursement for 5 firemen. That's at $30 an hour, and up to 8 hours. That's it. Okay. And they will supply 2 pieces of equipment they'll pay for. And their pay scale is a little different than ours. It's like $130 for a pumper and like $180 for a tanker an hour. So I don't have that scale thing here. I do have them back at the station. I kind of ran out of there in a hurry.
Jim.
But they will pay up to 8 hours on stuff, and they will also pay for an incident commander, which is myself or one of my assistant chiefs, and that's the same rate. You know, So it's actually 6 guys for up to 8 hours, $30 an hour, and then they'll pay for the vehicle too, the command vehicle. So. Not too shabby. I mean, you know, it's a start. So.
You have a comment, David?
Well, no, I'm kind of a bit of confusion here, but it is my understanding that a hazardous material incident, such as a spill, or probably the biggest thing you're going to see, or the most often, it would be a fuel spill. A fuel spill or you know, a toxic chemical spill.
Yes.
Which you don't know what's going up and down that road. You could have anything there.
There's a couple options.
Okay, now, wait a minute, Jim. The point is that those were reimbursable at least through emergency management. You get the information and you can bill through the insurance on those. Fire, well, we have to provide fire protection. If there's a flame, something has to be put out. There's nothing toxic there. No, I wouldn't say nothing toxic. Let me rephrase that. But what I'm saying, there's not a specific hazardous load, so to speak, that got spilled. But it's a fire. Okay, we have to respond to it as a fire. All right. Those things we would have to cover, like Neil said, we would have to cover. But like I say, if the fuel leaks out, it's a hazardous material spill, somebody's carrying something toxic and it dripping all over the parking lot, you got to clean that up, something like that. Those would be reimbursable through the county EMA. There would be a bill sent out and you could submit that to they could submit that to their insurance.
I
pay it directly, or you go after them for the cost.
But let me put you on hold there a minute. I cannot bill through the county EMA in the township, only in the city.
Okay.
We are contracted to you people. Unless that's in the contract, you guys can go after that.
You know, it's the same thing with the railroad out here.
Yeah.
If a tanker they're carrying a tank of toxic material and it ruptures and there's a big spill, hey, they could be on the hook. They could be on the hook for the cost of that.
And I think I would think you might need a legal opinion on, you know, what they're paying here. If you do have a spill, a chemical spill, and you have to go further in than just the fire department, the cleanup company, or we always go after whoever's driving the truck and we make them sign the waiver form. That way, that means they're responsible. And they all know that out there. I mean, you gotta see sometimes they speak Russian and they don't try to speak English to you, and all I do is tell the trooper, this guy, he won't speak English to me. He said, oh yeah, he will. And he goes over there, and the next thing you know, he speaks perfect English. But those kind of deals, you know, you get the commitment from them, you get them to sign the paperwork, and then you can go after them for reimbursement, you know. But as far as on the turnpike in the west or eastbound lane, anything eastbound. You know, because Amherst City actually goes out 1 mile on the westbound lane and the Middle Ridge Plaza. That's all Amherst City. So we can go after them. You know, like the Middle Ridge Plaza has a spill in there. You know, we can go after them for that because then it's city limits. And, well, we're contracted to you guys. So actually, I could work with you and get that going in the right direction to get it over there. The last 4 or 5 things that I threw in Tom Kelly's lap over there, he said, where was this at? And it was in the township. And he goes, because they don't even want to, you know, it has to come from you guys. So. But,
okay. I like it. 4 days, you get a check.
Yeah, but
You've been through with Emergency Management Association. It takes so long to see any reimbursement if you see anything.
I went over there one day and he had stuff on his desk and I said, Tom, tell me my stuff's in that pile. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, and I'm sure Jessica's going to have the same difficulty because you know how tough it is sometimes to get reimbursement.
And then if the prosecutor, the law director of the county, if you don't want to mess with him, if his slate's full, gets shoved over here. You know? Yeah. But trying to do what we can do. you
Yeah,
know.
this is good news. You had 2 items you want to bring up. Was there another one on smoke
Well,
detectors?
remember we had talked about smoke detectors, you know, and I didn't want to really put a thing out there as far as smoke detectors go. I would rather, you know, put something out there about fire prevention fund, and then this way here, we were going to a few places. Chris had to go out and do the bricklayers out there, and they said, "Hey, we'll donate $200 to you." Sweet. Well, I haven't got the check yet, but, you know. And I was telling Linda that the beer guy down here, he wants to make like 2 kegs of beer and sell that beer and then donate for smoke detectors. I said, we'll be glad to go out and put them up. I got guys that are willing to go and do them. Matter of fact, we got some, the 11th this month, we're going out and putting up some. And basically, I'd like to see it go to the elderly and the, you know, the misfortunate, handicapped, that, you know, if they need them, hey, we'll go out and put them up. We actually found a deal on, it's a pretty good detector. We've had pretty good luck with it. And they come in packs of 4s. And it's like $35 for 4 of them. And those are the 10-year things that, you know, you don't have to change the batteries in them. So we've been buying them at the station. I bought, I think, I don't know, 30, 40 of them. And they go quick, you know. Because we carry them on a truck, too. If we go into a fire somewhere and, you know how many times we go into a fire and a smoke detector, you got no batteries in it. And we carry batteries too, so you know, we do that as a service for everybody. You know. Especially if they got kids in the house and they don't have no smoke detector, shame on them. Shame on them.
Well, that's great, Jim. If you're able to get private sector funds, good. And another thing, it's community-wide when you use private sector, and
Well,
you don't have to worry about which side of the line you're on when you put a smoke detector.
So I talked to Linda and I told her I'd give her this place we get them, and when the money funnels in, they're going to give it to me. I'll bring it out to her and give it to her, and then she said she could get them. And then what we'll do is, you know, if we normally have people call and we set up appointments with them, and then what we do is I can call her and say, hey, we got 5 people in the township that need smoke detectors. We'll come and pick them up. Because, you know, or we'll use ours and then we'll just get back from here. So either way. But I think it looks better if you guys are handling them too, rather than just us doing it. I hate it, like, you know, people come from Lorraine and they say, hey, you guys are giving out free smoke detectors. I said, where do you live? You know, well, I live down in Lorraine. Well, you know, Lorraine Fire gives them away too. And I found out there they get them through the Red Cross. So.
Well, as long as David indicated, if they're private donations and we can work it out.
Well, the only thing that they asked was, is it possible maybe to give them a little plug in the township paper?
That'd be easy because we'd have to notify people how to request them, and I don't know if like the way.
I wouldn't want to put in there a smoke detector. I would just maybe say fire prevention fund, questions, call somebody and say, because, you know, if you do that, you'd be surprised. We did that one year, and because we got a bunch of free ones, everybody and their brother comes up there, they want smoke detectors. We want, you know, oh, great, this didn't work. You know, so.
There's a lot of COVID tests available.
Yeah. So. But anyhow, that's basically what I had.
Okay, well, good. If you want to have any more questions for the chief?
No, I have none.
Okay, if you just stick around.
Okay, I will. Can I give this to?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. GHRIF. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay.
You take it.
It's made out to Amherst Fire Department, Chief Wilhelm.
But
He
it's
can
up
sign
to-
it over to us and,
If he endorses it,
Okay.
you can deposit it, right?
Yep.
As long as the
I
bank
believe so.
accepts it.
Ew.
You need one of those ones with the Amherst Fire Department on it.
It
Nice.
did away, didn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
Is that one not working now?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
And for the trustees, while we're waiting, so you can be prepared, the first resolution that deals with the ARPA standard allowance, just set that aside.
Thank you, sir.
And right behind that will be documentation
That's
dealing
awesome.
with the new fire contract and the data over the last year, and actually some of it for the last 2 years that we'll be covering here. Okay. All right, you'll see what's up on the screen right now is just for 2021 with our fire and EMS calls that we've had. And you can see for the year we had 316 calls, so almost one a day. But the reason I wanted this up is more to see what the trend was, and it kind of confirms what the chief had indicated at the last meeting, that calls had gone up. I had reviewed through the actual incident reports, and there were quite a few of them there for the shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. You did have a few that even specified COVID positive. I assume that dispatch told you ahead of time. You already knew they were positive tests for COVID. I don't know, since we won't receive the next reports for another month or so. I'm assuming January was, if that holds true, January may be up also, and hopefully February we see that. No, Chris is saying no. Well, eventually we're hoping it tailors down, because we all know many people that right there from Christmas on were very sick. So obviously calls went up. So the main thing here is to see the trend. Rose, if you could put up the pie chart. And if the trustees look at it, you've got a colored chart also. This pie chart actually shows the proportion. We still show the information between whether it's a fire call or whether it's emergency medical service, and then whether it's north of the turnpike or south of the turnpike within the township. And what this chart is showing is that the vast majority of calls are actually emergency services, and actually about 76%, so almost 3/4, and a quarter that tend to be actual fire emergencies. And if you look at between north and south of the turnpike, is we've got the, mine actually cut off, I can't read that up there, but it's over 50% of the calls are actually north of the turnpike. And now can you bring up the next worksheet, Georgianne, with the cost? Okay, on here, we're looking at the total cost for fire and EMS service, and I'm only showing it for the 2 years. The reason being, in 2019, we still had some of the portion that was serviced by the village of South Amherst versus the city of Amherst, so it would have made it very confusing in comparing it and looking at it, whereas 2020 and 2021 were fully Amherst Fire Department. So if you look at the first row there that shows fire and EMS, this is where we're actually running vehicles out for an emergency to service either people or protect property. And if we look at the totals for 2020 for just fire and EMS was $187,000. In 2021, a little over $199,000. The total, because we also have the testing of hydrants and painting of hydrants and fire prevention officer there, you can see it's 2020 was $200,000 and 2021 was just under $208,000 that was expended. And I think someone's alarm's going off. I know it's not mine, so I'm not jumping up. But those cost figures are more for the trustees in looking at the contract, the draft contract that we received from the city of Amherst to continue fire service. And the trustees have in their packet a copy One, it was very nice. The city did highlight in yellow where the changes were. And then the one you have that I marked up, I marked in what the previous numbers were so that you can see the adjustment. So if you look at the changes, you start out in section 4.1. The change there is we're going from a 3-year to a 5-year agreement, and that's something that I had requested Mayor Costello to include just to get something more of a commitment longer term. And we've done 5-year agreements before with the city, but it was only for the portion north of the Ohio Turnpike. If you go to section 5.1, this is where we pay a fixed amount per quarter for service. It previously was $14,000. It's now gone up to $15,500 per quarter, or roughly $62,000 a year. That's a 10.7% increase. Continue on, you look for fire and first responders as far as the cost per hour. This is what's actually the direct payroll, if you will, and benefits for those that do respond. We do have a paid volunteer response, so that can vary quite a bit, you know, depending upon the call and the time of day and day of the week. Whereas in 2021, we were at $29.50 an hour. You see there's basically a 2.5% increase per year going out. So in 2026, it would be at $33.37. Section 5.2, this is where there is an obligation since we pay on a per call basis. You know, it's hard to say where that's going to be, and I know in the negotiation of the last agreement, when we changed from having a township split between half of its service by the Village of South Amherst Fire Department, half by the City of Amherst, you know, I pulled all that data together, shared it with the city, we looked through it. They didn't want to make a long-term agreement at that time because everybody wanted to kind of feel their way into this change as to what was going on. There also was some negotiation on vehicle cost. The city finally did agree to reduce the cost per vehicle, but the trade-off was they wanted the fixed amount in there. So $185,000 is the new value. It was $176,000. That's a $9,000 increase, or roughly 5%. I'm not overly concerned with this. As you've seen these last 2 years, we've actually been above that, but again, that's call-based. There will be some years, you know, you don't know, we may drop down, you know, well then we got to have a true-up payment, if you will, to come up, so that we'll always pay a minimum of $185,000. That's still realistic when you think about the cost, though. If we ran our own fire department, you know, cost would be much more difficult. So this actually, to me, helps both communities in here. And 6.1, this is kind of minor. This is dealing with the hydrants that, for the hydrant testing, it was $15. It'll be going up to $16.25, so another $1.25 more, 8.3% increase. So all the changes were in the financials. And I did send to you, Chief, there was, I could tell when, you know, I'm assuming you edited it or somebody edited the original agreement just to get that section 7.1, that's minor. But those are the major changes in the agreement. I then went, what the trustees don't have in their packet, because I didn't have time to get this done ahead of time, but I worked on this last night, is, you know, how does this impact us financially in the long term also? Again, it's with so many moving parts, not knowing how many responders show up, how many incidences you have, it's hard to keep a real hard, fast handle on those costs. But assuming the costs continue on as they were based on these past 2 years, in assuming a 5% inflation rate is you know, and that could be in calls and taking all these different costs. And you saw the per person is 2.5. Some are, it's anywhere from 2.5, 10%, depending upon which cost factor you look at. I don't see where we'll be in deficit spending until the last year of the agreement. What's helped us in there is there's actually been two things. In November 2018, the voters approved the replacement levy for our EMS, but that can only be used for EMS, and that's why the chief, you know, they identify which they are, because that, you know, revenue source can only pay for EMS. It can't pay for the fire calls. So we tend to use most of that. Well, in that replacement levy, because of the value of real estate, the revenue to the township more than doubled. We went from around, I think it was down around 29,000 when the state changed some things that you could tax. So it's now, the estimate is 72,000 that'll bring in. The other big change was in 2020, we received those CARES Act funds. And we were under the gun because by the time we received the funds, I think was somewhere in like the June time frame, either May, June. So we received the funds in the middle of the year, and the original law said we have to spend it by the end of the year. And then they tie your hands on what you could spend it on. Well, during that time, the Treasury had made a change midstream that said for administrative convenience, anything dealing with emergency services we could spend it on. So we spent a large portion on that for our fire and EMS. So essentially we weren't using those funds, we were using the CARES funds. So between the CARES funds and the voters approving that levy, which we started collecting in 2019, that's kind of delayed where we thought we would be in deficit spending to begin with. We knew with the last agreement with Amherst it'd be close to where we'd be spending about what we were taking in, all depending upon the number of calls. But as it looks right now, because of those two key changes, we won't be deficit spending until 5 years from now. Now, we do have a healthy carryover balance, so even as we go into deficit spending, there's not an issue there. And this is something Chief will discuss later. I know we've been holding funds. No one will have to have replacement vehicle. The Chief has some different ideas on replacement vehicles, but that's something we have to talk further on as to what we do and how we address this. But in any case, if we, with that healthy carryover balance, we're okay, but there has been the discussion, you know, you don't really want to be in deficit spending in a long term. You prefer to avoid going to voters and asking for property tax increases, which is the only option townships have is property taxes. And so our options is increase revenue, reduce costs, but how do we do that if we don't want to increase the taxes to the property owners and our residents? Now, the chiefs mentioned some of them here, and I know the mayor and the chief had discussed this in the last contract negotiation, and I kind of said, you know, with all the other changes and going to just one fire service provider, I was reluctant to make that change on top of it at that time. And I just asked the mayor, can we just wait and gather some more information? I'd really like to see who else is doing this, and as the chiefs pointed out, Overland is already. So at this time, I think that's something we do have to explore, where individuals outside the district, their insurance would cover the cost going out, or, you know, for our fire and EMS and responding to those calls. And so that's one way where we can stall off, if you will, the deficit spending and maybe not even get to that point. But again, it's something that we're going to have to look at.
Can I interject something there? I
Yeah.
did find a place in Pennsylvania around Oil City that has 90 go through it, and they had been doing the billing on the other end of it, and they generated same size department as what we are almost. They generate around $41,000 a year just in their
Yeah.
responses and stuff.
Well,
So
that's the other thing, Chief, you bring up. It's hard for me to quantify this right now. You probably got the information since Amherst switched their new software, and I assume you probably have a payroll module to help pay the responders that are going out. So since you have that option, your incident reports no longer show how many individuals responded,
Yeah.
you know, to that. So I couldn't see that, plus, and I was kind of happy I didn't see it, because then I probably would have been up even later trying to pull all that data
Well,
together
I-
manually and come up with a number.
Let me just interject a few things here. Our budget for me to operate the fire department is north of $900,000 a year. So to answer your question you guys had about starting your own fire department,
Oh, yeah, that's,
you know, yeah. You're talking a ladder truck today is a 1.8 million for a ladder truck. Most all the pumpers and stuff that you're looking at, they're all $500,000. So that's why we try to keep everything in tip-top shape over there, and the guys do a real good job of it. That tanker that you bought us, that's been a blessing. That truck, it's, you know, a lot of guys were on me because, it's junk, but it runs, it does its job, it hauls water, and it can do, I've used it already, like out in the trailer park where, you know, sometimes we don't know how many guys we're getting. Things are getting better, but, you know, you take a Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, you'll be lucky to get 5 guys sometimes. Well, I can put 5 guys in that truck with 2,500 gallons of water, and I'll put any trailer out that's in fire out there, you know. But on the other end of that also is we've worked into agreements with the rest of the township around us, and the city of Vermillion, Vermillion Township, Florence Township, South Amherst, Oberlin, Carlisle, Elyria Township, and Sheffield Township. We run automatic mutual aid. It's split up into zones. The city zone is 58 to the turnpike, and anything that side of 58 is the northwest zone. And he's all of 58, and anything east is the northeast zone. And then the turnpike is the split south. Now, if we have a house fire in the township out south of 113, you're going to get a lot of people, and that doesn't cost us anything. I get an engine from Elyria Township with a crew. I get a tanker from Carlisle. I get a tanker from Oberlin, and I get a tanker from South Amherst, plus all our guys. It's all under the mutual aid agreement, and we wash each other's hands. We go to Oberlin, we go to Carlisle, we go to Elyria Township or Sheffield, and when it's all said and done, it pretty much evens itself out. So, and then, you know, we're not beating the crap out of our own men.
right.
You know, it gives us enough people to do the incident command system the way it's supposed to be done. And it's a big plus, and it's working. We work well with all the people around us. So,
I think those shared services are appreciated. I know the general public
Yes.
doesn't always understand, but it's good. But I do have one suggestion for you, because I remember when we were out specifying the current tanker, as you were instrumental in that. You were much younger then, but
Oh, yeah.
Chief Zilch was the fire chief. So if you have anybody that complains about any equipment you have, I would suggest you put them on the ad hoc committee for the next replacement vehicle. And we'll
I
let
don't know if I'd
everybody
wanna do
know
that, Neil.
they are the ones that specified it.
No, that truck's been really good. You know, there was a little grumbling at first, but you know, hey, the guys jump in that thing and they take it, and we take it out of town too, and people are glad to see it coming. You know, because they call us and they say, hey, send us a pumper. So that truck will do the same thing that a pumper will do.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and if
it's
they're on
like
the
that-
committee,
Huh?
if they're on the committee, they have to go out for the final test and inspection on the truck. That truck came from Iowa.
Yes.
It was a very pleasant ride late after work with a
Yeah.
couple of guys. Timmy Gates is still on your department.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember sleeping in the back of the truck.
yeah, yeah.
But, okay, it's, you guys have all the financials, you have the what the changes were. Before I ask for questions, I do have a prepared resolution here for Fire and EMS First Responder Service Agreement with the City of Amherst for all unincorporated area within the township. It goes through and explains the current situation. I'm not going to read through all those whereases. But what this would be, and just so we understand, the current contract, the 3-year contract for EMS and fire will expire at 11/59 on May 31st of this year. And this still has to go through Amherst Council, so it's just in a draft format right now. And just to get this on the floor, I'm going to make the motion that now therefore be resolved by the trustees of the Township of Amherst, State of Ohio, that the Amherst Township Board of Trustees shall enter into an agreement with the City of Amherst, Lorraine County, Ohio, for the purpose of providing fire and emergency medical first responder service to all unincorporated area of Amherst Township as detailed in the attached contract specifications. The President Chairman of the Amherst Township Board of Trustees is authorized to sign the attached contract. Section 2, invoicing and payment shall be as specified in the attached fire service agreement. Section 3, the City of Amherst shall identify charges for fire service and emergency medical first responder service separately on the invoice or in such other manner acceptable to the Amherst Township Fiscal Officer to facilitate disbursements from the appropriate township fund. Section 4, the Fiscal Officer of Amherst Township shall ensure that sufficient funds to pay the purchase price for the provision of fire and emergency medical services are appropriated. Section 5 is this resolution and the attached emergency service contract between the City of Amherst and Amherst Township, Ohio, shall supersede any township resolution or contract currently in effect for the provision of fire and first responder emergency services beginning at 12:01 a.m. on June 1st, 2022, and shall remain in effect, and there's a mistake, that should be for 5 years. You want to correct that. Chris, I'll send you a corrected electronic version.
Okay.
As specified in Article 4 of the contract. Section 6, this resolution is adopted as a real and present emergency in connection with the administration of township services. And Section 7 is just the boilerplate that this has all been handled in a public forum. So that'll be my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, and now that we have this on the floor, based on all the information that's been presented, are there any questions? And it's very helpful you've got Chief Northeim here tonight. I'm sorry.
Wow.
That's the other guy. Chief Wilhelm. I'm sorry, Chief. Been through too many fire chiefs. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Based on hydrant testing, because I know we pay annually to the City of Amherst through the contract, but we also pay Amherst Utilities for hydrant testing. Are you guys?
No, that's for upkeep.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure, because
Yes,
they do
yeah.
say hydrant testing is what they say on their bill.
Yeah, they shouldn't, because they're really not testing them. We test them. We do flow tests on them. We can tell you how many gallons a minute are available.
That was
And
just me wanting a clarification, because I was
Yes.
like,
Yes.
Yeah, if you look, Chris, I'm sure those old agreements are here, because they would have been before your time. I've seen them. Every water service provider, because the township has multiples, has their own separate details. So whether it's rural water, Nora Water, Amherst Water, Lorraine Water, rural Lorraine County Water, Elyria Water, I mean, the township gets water from all different
Right.
sources, and they all have something a little different in
thank
their
you for
agreement.
clarifying that.
Okay.
That's my question.
Anything else? Okay, then roll call, Chris?
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Yurg?
Yes.
And when I get you the electronic version corrected, Jim, who needs a copy of this? Should this go to the mayor or to you?
Either way, I can pick it up, take it to them, or,
Okay. Well, what I was hoping was that I got to correct that one error in section 5 of our resolution, because it's going to be a 5-year agreement. We can do that, or if we can have it emailed over to you with a certified copy.
That's fine, we can do that too.
What's the resolution number?
3222. I believe. Yep.
I'll give you a copy of the turnpike thing, and just making a copy. And then I'll get you the breakdown of the money.
Right.
That's on a separate sheet.
Yeah, and just so the trustees are aware, and in the future, as far as any potential changes in terms of billing insurances and whatnot, that'll come as an addendum later in this, and, because I'm sure Amherst is going to look at on their side too. We want to try and quantify that, and then we may have to run that through for, their legal service and our prosecutor, make sure everything's on the up and up. But I know that for several years at the Ohio Township Association, there's been multiple billing services down there all trying to push this. So you're going to see more and more of it. But Chief, thank you. I wasn't sure, Chris, if you had anything separate. Okay, because when we get the fire later, we're just going to skip by it then.
Right.
Okay, and I've got one other change since we've got a group of residents here, is we're going to allow them to speak. I don't know who wants to talk, but since you guys don't have your own mic, if you come up to the podium here, and that's just more for where this is recorded, it works easier if you speak at the mic. It doesn't pick up so much the sound in the open audience, okay?
Jeremy, will you come up and speak?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm here with a group of my neighbors. We're residents at Amherst Township. We're all over on Pile South Amherst Road. So we're on the west side of the road, a little bit south of the Ohio Turnpike, about a third of a mile south there. So basically here with some stormwater drainage issues. There's a drain line that was put in by the county, and Walt can talk more about the timeframes that have been in there. And it's something we've been dealing with the last couple years, where the drain is essentially blocked up. It's not operating properly. And there's a large amount of water that comes from the east side of the road carries over to the west side of the road. And in this last storm that we had just a couple days ago, we had about an inch of rain, and there was 7 of these houses that are all in a row where the water is to the point where it's blocking the driveways. There's like a foot plus of water on the driveways. It's washing them out and creating, a safety issue with some of the residents getting in and out of the driveways. So, like I said, it's been going on a couple years. I've talked to Denny about it. He's been out. I've talked to the county about it. And the county, after several calls, essentially told me to stop calling them, that it has to be done through the township. So that's why we were here to present that. So there's some questions as far as, it's more than 30 feet off the road, which is something that was brought up. So, the drains themselves run through private property, but part of my question is, these drains were all installed by the county. So I was hoping that either through the township or the county, there's some kind of funding available just to maintain these storm drains. It's basically a 12-inch storm drain that's not operating properly. So just wanted to present that and see what the procedure was going to be to move forward with that.
Jeremy, on Pile, are you north or south of Middle Ridge and Pile?
We are south of that. We're about a third of a mile south of the turnpike.
Okay.
And you're on the west side.
Correct. Yeah, so we have Beaver Creek in our backyard, and we're on the west side there.
Is it kind of a gully comes where
Yep.
your houses are at?
Exactly, yeah, there's...
I think Digger was down there a couple of years ago doing some kind of work.
He was, yeah, Danny was over there. That was next to you, right? Yeah, Bob. Yeah, so the problem is, that pipe that Danny put in is clogged, a few houses down from there. So none of that water's getting through that pipe.
Right, and that heads north?
That all heads north, correct.
Okay.
And then it discharges under my neighbor's property here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we can certainly contact the county on,
The county, I contacted the
Okay,
county.
good.
The county will not touch it because it's over 30 feet off the road. And they say that they're not going to touch it. I think the dilemma is is on your property, right?
What's the dilemma?
The plug drain, the 12-inch drain. And it is plugged, correct?
Yeah, it's several areas that that drain is clogged. And if you guys want to come up and talk to
Well, the county's not going to do anything.
why did the county installed it for the
Well-
private individuals, not to drain the road then?
They've changed their, but go ahead.
Thank you for listening to me. I built my house in '78, and it had a drain under the driveway, like a 12-inch drain. That's what he was just saying was clogging up, and right now it's clogged up. Well, when I built my house, I put a second 12-inch concrete, steel reinforced concrete. There's two drains there. Mine works fine, but it's too damn high. These guys are getting flooded before it gets to my drain, and the bottom one that was there is clogged. Anyway, we're all on the we're on the west side of the road? Yeah. And the road goes just like this and then down to us. And everything from the other side comes to our side of the street. Back 10, 12 years ago, the county, they're bullshitting us. The county, they redid that bottom tile. They put some kind of a sleeve in it, and they even put a drain in approximately 4 feet into his property. Anyway, they could do it then, and it's roughly 200, 150 feet off the road. But they did it then, and they're lying like hell. They say they didn't before. County people came out and they re-sleeved that one pipe, and then they put a drain in ahead of it yet. I don't know what else to say. I feel sorry for these folks. My driveway's the one that's damming the whole thing up. But then again, I built the first house back along that side of the woods. You were the second one, Denny.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. How much would it take to clear out the drain where it's plugged up?
With the proper resources, the county or somebody could probably do it for, I don't know, a couple $100. Jeremy?
It's collapsed. It's basically.
It's collapsed?
I called it a jetting company. They charge $600 to jet it. Like he said, he won't come out there because it's collapsed in there. So he was worried about losing the head. And something else just to add to this, the county did come out. They were out last year. They were marking.
I remember one day they were there, yes.
And I'm wondering what I never heard anything.
Maybe Jeremy, could you sit up by the other mic?
Yep.
Since there's one available.
So that was the other question. The county came out, they were putting marks out, doing measurements, but then there has to be some kind of survey or study or something that we can look at. I mean, I don't know what happened to any of the data that they came up with when they came out. But it seems like if they put it in, that they could do the maintenance on it. That's my main question.
And just, I think, Chris, you were asking the name. It's
Yes,
Walt
I-
Smith.
Walt Smith, I'm sorry.
Walt Smith.
He just wants to record it in a minute.
Oh, that's, yeah, my fault for not mentioning it first.
Denny, you said you recall who you spoke with at the county?
I spoke with
They
the
just
guy
need to
that
state
we
their
talk
name.
to all the
Was it
time.
Bob Kleiber,
They just
Don
Bob
Romantic?
Kleiber,
Okay.
Bob Kleiber. I spoke with Bob, and he gave me the name of an organization to go to that's not here, but I can't remember that name. But Jeremy and Walt, what I'm thinking is I would like our road guy to go out and take a look at it and see if he can do anything. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Take a look at it, see what you can do, and if he says it's only going to cost a couple $100 to do that, maybe we can do it. It's working off the grounds.
You know, what we really need is we need a second pipe down low like the first one. It's collapsed now. And
What is the first one made out of?
I want
It's
to say it was,
concrete. Yeah.
my top one is concrete that I put
The
in.
discharge is, yeah.
Yeah. The one down below, I think it was corrugated steel or something.
The one down below is
Yeah.
corrugated steel?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
And that's collapsed?
Yeah, Jeremy says he think that's collapsed.
Yeah, it's like a black corrugated plastic that runs into a concrete one under his driveway.
Okay, that plastic is that liner that they put in back about 10 or
Yeah,
12
and
years
that
ago.
seems like it's in good shape, but it's not flowing. Nothing's flowing through there.
And I feel sorry for these folks because I'm kind of damming the thing up, but then again, everybody's driveway's damming everybody else's too. And it all flows down our way.
Has it lessened, has it still flooded, or has it moved on? Water, that is.
Yeah, it's still flooded now.
It's pretty good now, but back a few days ago, it was 4 feet deep on his yard.
Also, the land across the street, the wood was harvested. So that's making it seem to be even worse than.
What's that?
So the wood, the woods across the street from our house, they harvested the wood back there.
Right.
So because of that, you don't have, the trees to absorb any of that water anymore. It's all gone. So now it's just pouring over the road to where it's actually a hazard to people driving because, you come along there with no warning and hit that water, it could cause a major accident. So it's just really frustrating because, we had the rain over the weekend and it just, I don't think I've been there 15, 16 years. I've never seen it as bad as it is right now.
And that's because they took the woods all out of that.
Yeah,
the east side.
It's been bad for years, but now it's even worse. So.
Excuse me. Even on the east side where he's talking, right next to where they did the woods thing, there's a culvert leading from the left right across to the right to our side of the road, just pouring water down our way. And it's a county culvert.
Have any of you taken photos of the situation?
Yeah, I could show. I took some just the other day.
You got a video also? Okay, what I'm going to suggest, I can only guess here, I haven't been part of the conversation. If Denny spoke with Bob Kleiber at the county engineer's office.
And he directed me to another source because they're not going to touch it.
Oh,
They being the
and
county.
you'll have to figure out what that other source is. But Bob's normally a pretty reasonable person, has been my experience. So I have no idea why the county put the line in originally, unless it's similar. We had a similar situation on Oberlin Road, and that was even more complicated because we were dealing with ODOT at the state, a county on a portion for the drainage, and then the township, and it was a line that ran across private property that was draining the area. So it's finally got agreement, and this one did have shared costs by the residents, but to change all of that, to put all the tile along the roadway surface between those different entities to get the drainage taken care of. Typically, just so everyone understands, if it's not impacting the road, in this case it's a county road, and the one gentleman's indicated maybe it is, we tend not to have any authority for townships to go on private land. If it's impacting our road, we get the okay from the property owner, Kevin can do it. If it's not impacting our road, we're pretty much out of it, and that's where it goes back to the Board of Commissioners for drainage issues. And I don't know if that's where Bob referred you to.
No, you
Okay,
referred
there
me to.
are, which we'll be covering later in our meeting here, there are funds for drainage that can be used on private property. As a matter of fact, we've got the mini grant in. Don't know if we're going to get approved yet for the areas over there in Broadway Taylor where you'll be getting that drain line replaced there. That same thing, it's on private property, if we get approved. It's been an issue for a while. We've had it jetted out because it impacts the roads also and backs up in our catch basins, but you know, that costs us every year to jet that out. So it's possible that with the county stormwater district funds might be a possibility for this. But again, we've got to find out between the county and legal what can be done. And in that case, because you all pay for that, by the way, if you look at your tax bill, you're paying, if your house is paid off, you see it. If not, you're paying it through your mortgage company. But you do pay a fee for stormwater now. And that's where the county can go and handle drainage issues that are outside the road right away. And that's what it sounds like you've got. If it's beyond 30 feet, what they're telling you, it's outside the road right away. They don't see an issue impacting the road, so it's not something they can do, it's a private matter. But again, this is all speculation on my part because I've had no direct contact with them. But what I'm going to do is put it back on you if you can, is document this. That's going to help. And if you go to the township website, you'll see you can download a complaint form, get that filled out, whether you want to each do it individually or do one and all sign it. But what helps is the photos. If you've got the digital video, you know, get as much together as you can. And then what we'll have to do is approach them again. And there's also the potential, don't know that the county will agree to it, between stormwater district funds, county ARPA funds, and then a portion of township ARPA funds, which can be used for drainage issues. That's spelled out. And I know at the last meeting, Lorraine County Township Association, Commissioner David Moore specifically addressed the townships that, hey, the county has these funds for ARPA. They're looking at how to use them. They haven't zeroed in on that. If you read the Chronicle today, you saw the city of Elyria wants some of those ARPA funds to help fund the Harris radios they need for communication. This might be one, but I know Commissioner Moore made it clear that, hey, if you ask the county, we're expecting, in this case, the township to participate too. The county doesn't want to pay 100%. So that between stormwater funds you pay, ARPA funds from the county, from the township, we also might be able to get it done. But we don't know the severity. Did anyone from the county, did they look at it?
Yeah, they came out, they were marking everything. That's what.
Did they run a camera through it all?
I didn't see them with a camera, but I know they came out. But that's one of my questions is, you know, they came out, so where's the, you know, is there like a document that they produced with a engineering drawing or something like a?
Yeah, I don't know, Jeremy, if they installed it originally, they probably did, but.
I did not find that out in my communication with the, what's his name?
Bob Kleiber.
Bob Kleiber. I did not find that out. I need to talk to Bob Kleiber again, but I'm going to ask our road soup if he will come out and take a look at that. Walt, can you be there with him?
Yeah, sure, as long as I know when it's coming.
Well, I know that, Jeremy, you are pretty busy right now, right?
Yeah, I can make time though.
Can you be there with him?
Mm-hmm.
And what time, do you have any time tomorrow?
Tomorrow afternoon,
What time?
later the better, so after 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Can you be there, Walt and Jeremy? Can you both be there at 2 o'clock tomorrow?
I can.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll both be there. Do you know where the section is?
Yes.
He's the first house. Well, he's not the first, but
Back in the woods.
after you get in the woods. Do you know what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Do you need more info to get there? All righty, well, you're gonna meet them, those two, George and Walt, at 2 o'clock, right? Take a look at it and see if you can fix it easily. Okay? And then let me know.
But Jeremy, I'd still document this, in the event it can't be, so then we can run it through the county. 'Cause I can tell you, I mean, obviously we run into drainage issues all over. You recall the one we had at Middle Ridge in 58, the county was helpful in getting theirs done. ODOT got theirs done, but they had a drainage issue on the private property they wouldn't touch. And if you recall, eventually Paul Slyman looked at it, and he took care of that portion to get his done at his cost. But if you get this document, we can at least see what the options are.
Okay, and fill out the form on the...
Yeah, fill out the form as to what's there, but as much information, even if you have to type separate, that's probably going to be easier for you and say, see attached. But especially if you guys got photos and video. The gentleman that said about it coming across the road, I don't know if anybody has video of that. That'd be real helpful.
Yeah, if you can get video of that. Sir, what's your name?
Dan Young.
Dan Young. Dan, if you can get photos of that water coming across the road, it would be helpful.
Yeah. Shouldn't take long, yeah.
Usually happens 3-4 times a year, so.
Okay.
But that'll be nice, because then it can all be sent electronically too, and when you guys have it done, however you do it, because it also helps to put as many individuals together, that then you can email those over. Hopefully the videos aren't too large, but if you can email them over the township, and Linda, if you look at the township website and send it to Linda Ashley, and then that way she can get it out to everybody else too. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Now, if we can get the county brought back in by the water coming across that road, because that water is doing damage to that road. And if we can show that, you say you have photos of that?
I believe I have going across the road.
That'd be even more helpful.
That would be more helpful, because if I can get those photos, I'll be there. I think I can be there with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'll be there too, okay?
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I think that should cover it.
Is everybody here for drainage, or is someone here for something else?
No, I think everybody's here for drainage.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming, pull things together. You'll talk with Kevin tomorrow, but I'd still keep going forward, and getting this all documented, and then we can work with the county.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Especially the water coming across the road. If you can get me films of that, that'd be helpful. Okay? All right, thanks all of you for coming. Walt, nice to see you.
Another thought I had was, when I was standing with her, I mentioned it was the county people that worked on that driveway. It's possible it could have been ODOT. There's a difference, right?
There is a difference, but
They may have been the ones that did it, because they both got damn yellow, orange trucks, it's hard to tell. I can't remember in my memory if it was county or ODOT now that did that work under my driveway.
I don't see any reason for ODOT to be on that road. It's a county road.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, we're going to move back into the regular agenda, so Chris, the financials, please.
You have a payment listing in front of you. Everything is pretty standard, just regular monthly bills that you've got in front of you. Our year-to-date revenue is $78,468.27. And our year-to-date expenditures are $289,252.91.
hopefully later this month, we get our first half property tax in.
Yeah, that should be real soon. So it could be by the 22nd it'll be in. And we did receive, you had sent the email to everyone regarding the additional ARPA funds. And we did receive those already.
Okay, good, yeah, and I'll get that
It's
amount.
like $1,000 or something.
1,200, I was looking for the amount.
Yeah, but think about that, that's spread out over every city, village, and township that applied for it. I can't believe there were people that didn't apply. So it had to be a group that didn't and turned down, you know, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I mean, the government was throwing money at people, the federal government. Still don't know that that was the right thing to do, but throw it out at you.
$1,202.92. We just got that, so.
202.90.
1202.92.
I think Georgianne's got that included in the newsletter, which the trustees will be signing later.
That is all I have on financials.
Okay, well, hopefully we get that second half, or that first half property tax in, since we're now, what, about 211,000 spent more than we took in so far this year. So if there's no questions on the bill, can I have a motion to pay the bills and approve the financial reports with reservation?
So move.
Second.
Euring,
Yes.
Abraham,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Okay, and I do have the first resolution I asked you guys to set aside deals with the ARPA funds. And this is where the, we had talked about where Treasury now in their final rule, so they talked about approving the final interim rule with amendments. I mean, they always have to make things confusing, is that as opposed to using the reduction of revenue formula they had with either actual loss or I believe it was 4.1% growth rate that they used as a standard, you could claim standard allowance for revenue loss, and if you did that, you could do up to $10 million and expend that on any government service you normally provide. Now, there are some exceptions as to what you can use the funds for. Well, obviously, we didn't receive anything close to that. We received our initial payment. It was just a hair over $301,000. We expect another payment either this year or next year for another $301,000. Chris just mentioned the 1202 that was split up since some communities did not apply for their ARPA funds. And there is, if you read the email from the Office of Budget Management, there's still some ambiguity as to what the next payment will be and when the payment will be in terms of those residual funds for communities that didn't claim theirs. But in any case, this resolution is an election to use the standard allowance and its presumption of revenue loss due to the public health emergency as authorized by the Department of Treasury final rule regarding the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund and Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund established under the American Rescue Plan Act. And I'm not going to go through all those, again, all those whereases, but it does define where we will be using the funds for. But I do want to cover what it cannot be used for. The restrictions are, can't be deposited in the pension funds. So, and that does not cover though, Chris, just so we understand that, you can use it for paying the OPERS. What you can't use it for is if someone has a pension fund and it's underfunded, you know, to backfill it. You can't use it for that, but you can use it for OPERS. You can't use it to settle any, if there's a judgment against us, a legal judgment, we can't use it for paying that off. We can't use it for contribution to the financial reserve or rainy day fund. Again, none of those three at this point in time impact us. One that does, though, is we cannot use it for debt service. And we have had that clarified. The no interest loans that we have with the Ohio Public Works Commission, we cannot use ARPA funds to pay off those loans. So we just want to make sure we do this right. So I'm going to make a motion now, therefore be it resolved by the trustees of the Township of Amherst, State of Ohio, the Township elects to use the standard allowance and its presumption of revenue loss due to the public health emergency, and to use the amounts authorized herein to fund government services, including but not limited to road repair, maintenance, and other transportation and safety service, public infrastructure support, general government administration and administrative facilities, land use regulation and enforcement, parks and recreation facilities and programs, cemeteries, and fire and emergency medical services. Section 2, because the fire district fund has satisfactory reserves, and we covered that earlier, and the general and road and bridge funds are the funds most impacted by revenue constraints, the fiscal officer shall prioritize the use of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds authorized by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 for payment of government services typically funded by these constrained funds. Section 3, no obligation paid under the authority of this resolutions were incurred prior to March 3rd of 2021. The rest is all boilerplate, and I'll address the time deadlines later, but that'll be my motion.
Second.
Okay, I just want to mention I didn't bring it tonight. I did send it over to Chris and Linda. I can send it to everybody if you're interested. I had asked Dan Petticourt from Lorraine County Prosecutor's Office to review the resolution and make sure that it's clear. I also, since Treasury says this is done to help for administrative efficiency, asked him, is there any risk, and can we stop keeping the timesheets on every little thing that identifies, hey, this is an ARP identifiable thing, this one isn't. Stop keeping a summary spreadsheet on that, which would be our records and evidence for future audit. And Dan, he approved the resolution. He said, absolutely. He says that's part of the reason Treasury did it this way, was to avoid all those extra costs and administrative burden. But I also asked him, I was confused on the dates. The interim final rule says that you can cover any expense incurred after March 3rd of 2021, but it also said that this new final rule was effective April 1st of 2022. So that was very confusing to me. Well, Dan did send, and I thought I printed it out, but didn't, to read exactly what he put through. The way Dan explained that, first he explained to me that lawyers always put things in confusing language on purpose so that it keeps them employed. But he said the way to look at this is what Treasury did is it's still any expense. If you want to go back in time from March 3rd of 2021 and you adopt this, you can use it for any township government service other than the restrictions we covered. And even if it was prior to April 1st. So he says that's fine. He says that's just to cover you on all previous ones and going forward. Still seems a little confusing, but he said there is no problem there whatsoever. And for our typical cost, we will definitely be able to utilize all these funds here. In some ways, and this got debated at the Lorraine County Township Association meeting a few weeks ago, it's probably better to do it that way for your standard expenses, and even though it's not creating a rainy day fund, as far as longer term projects, is this gives you a better chance to plan for those projects versus having that time constraint by 2024 committed and incurred. And even though, let's say it were a major road project, you could expend it up to 2026, and if you didn't use it by then, invoices came in late, too bad, you got to return the money, and now you're on the hook for it. So to me, this is going to be much easier for us to do, and she's going to have to work out the best way to handle this. And I'm not saying, Chris, adjust anything in the past, but we can start immediately paying it. The very next payroll period, you can start doing it. So any of these expenses that we currently have except the OPWC, and then also because of the way the funding balance is for fire and EMS, we don't need to use it for fire and EMS this time. Okay. Like we did CARES, that's where a lot of our funds went. Okay? So are there any other questions on this?
Start spending.
Okay. All right.
This is 3/3/22, right?
This is 3/4/22.
So you want to take
3/3 was the bills and financials.
Okay.
I certainly would like Lynch,
Yes.
Euring,
Yes.
Abraham.
Yes. 3/4/22.
Yes, sir.
And so like Linda and Kevin, you can still keep the stuff if you want to, but yeah, I see the definite shaking no, you don't have to worry about it now.
Too much.
And we're certainly not going to get rid of anything, but even the way Dan explained it, like the resolution we had for getting a backhoe and what, don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
The
we'll
box
still keep
truck, Kevin, if you want to replace the box, when you look at that, if that's the right way to do it, we don't have to do a separate resolution on that now. Don't have to get the prosecutor to write a letter on us authorizing it. So this makes it much nicer. I'm trying to catch up with the resolutions myself.
Well, we still have two resolutions.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to get them marked on here. Okay, any correspondence there, Chris?
I have none.
Okay, David?
I have nothing to bring forward at this time.
Okay, Denny?
Nothing.
Okay, and anything I have will be in the packet. And again, just a reminder, and Linda did get the notice in for the Dewey Road project bid opening that will be on April 26th, and I did see that in the newspaper, Linda,
Yes.
so it did
Yeah, I
make
verified.
it. Okay, then we'll move on to reports. Zoning,
It was just one permit for the month, and then new houses stands at 0 for the year.
And the one permit was
For a sign
for
on
sign.
Telegraph Road.
okay, there any other questions for Remy? In your packet, I forgot this one in talking with the chief, but I just got this off to him. You see the one in here for a document in terms of dealing with the siren-based traffic preempters. This is Scott Kunze, I believe. I had his voicemail one time in speaking with Scott, but we formally sent everything to him and to the chief. The chief's got all of Scott's contact information. I'm hopeful that we can eventually get what the fire department wants versus what ODOT wants to put in. But Scott may be able to help us here because it appears ODOT has a different determination on which types of traffic preempters are the most effective. So this remains to be seen, but just to keep everybody up to date, this isn't forgotten, and we'll just stay on this. So that's the last item on fire. I should have covered that earlier. We'll move on to roads, parks and cemetery, Superintendent Smarsh.
Everything's status quo. Everything's running smoothly. I don't really have anything to report, but I do see we do have the two resolutions here for the street standards and then also for the LED lighting for the hall and office area.
Any questions for Kevin? Okay, well then I'm going to move on to the first one, which is correspondence. This is the funding of the Oberlin Road sanitary sewer extension going from Hampshire Farms north to the Oberlin Road overpass over State Route 2. Everyone's aware, Linda did send out, we received from ODOT that the one-time ODOT stimulus program they had available, we did not get funded. And if you looked at that, I know I spoke with Bob Kleiber, he was pretty disappointed because he had worked with several other Lorain County townships. No township in Lorain County received any funding. And I know he was pretty frustrated, and if you looked at the different funding, it wasn't the amount because there were many they paid for the full road resurfacing projects, which I didn't understand. I would have expected that you'd be better off if you had skin in the game, and we had even given the option, even if we get partial funding, and we were hoping to use that to leverage that. If we got partial funding, we wouldn't be able to do it this year, but by waiting a year, we could leverage some additional funds from OPWC, but for whatever reason, our project wasn't approved. I know Bob was frustrated when he saw the number of chip and seal projects that were funded, because he said some chip and seal projects, after 3 years, you need to repave them again. And it's like, this was supposed to be longer term, he would have thought, and he knows that even the gentleman Jeff at ODOT thought our project was real good, but didn't rise to the top. But in any case, we know that we held off on that road paving because the county's putting in sewers, and we didn't want to repave a road and even apply for funding earlier to have them turn around and start tearing it up. And if you go down there now, you see where all the laterals are cut, you know, you kind of ride up and down and test your shocks. But I've been in discussions with Bob Kleiber in the county engineer's office, and I've only spoken with Commissioner Moore. I first sent out an email on this asking for a change in how the county works on the TIF, and David, you'll be our rep on the TIF for Hampshire Farms, and not that this is for that discussion at the time, unless Bob Kleiber or one of the commissioners feels that's the appropriate time. But the discussion was, hey, how was that TIF written? Was it written general for all infrastructure, or did it say just for the sanitary sewers? And I know typically what I've seen in the TIFs from the county, they make it kind of general. I didn't have a copy of the TIF, so I couldn't read it myself. Bob thought it was general, but since then we found out from Commissioner Moore, yes, it is. So what we're asking for here is, would the county consider use the TIF dollars instead of for that section of sanitary sewer from Hampshire Farms along Oberlin Road to the Route 2 overpass, instead of using the bonds that they'll get available, notes and bonds through tax incremental financing to pay for that sewer, use the ARPA funds. Because ARPA funds can be used for sanitary sewers. Use the TIP funds if it's eligible. We're not asking for all of it because we want to leverage as many funds come to Lorain County as we can. Use a portion of the TIF funds to fund the repaving of Oberlin Road. Because then we can take the TIF funding from the county, we can take whatever percentage Amherst Township contributes and definitely increase our scoring, since these are also competitive grants through the Ohio Public Works Commission. And around 37, definitely improve our odds of getting the fundings to completely repave that section of Overland Road from Middle Ridge to North Ridge. I realize we've even discussed in the past, we normally wouldn't do the whole one because it'd be too large. We would have split that up in two. But this way we can do the whole road along there. Because we'd be applying for round 37, we'd apply this year, assuming this works out, but it wouldn't get paved until in 2023. So people are going to have to deal with the road where you test your shocks for a while. After getting this through, I did speak with Commissioner Moore, and he seemed positive. He said, hey, this is what the ARPA funds are intended for, but he needed to discuss it with their legal advisor that put together the TIF. His first question was, how much are the sewers? I said, I don't have that information. You'd have to get that from Bob Kleiber, the county engineer's office, and I am going to ask Bob for that information, because I expect those sewers are going to be more costly than the road. But I'm sure, though, if you can use it to fund that, because they can't pay debt service. That's one of the restrictions. Well, that section, to our knowledge, has no notes or bonds yet, so it still should comply and use ARPA funds. The other sewers that are already in, those will have to be paid with the TIF. So this is what we're asking for, and I expect the road cost, their portion, would be less than the sewer cost. But to me, that would be beneficial to every entity that receives property taxes, including Amherst Township, but the majority in this case would be Amherst exempted village schools. I'm sure they'd be happier with that because it would pay the TIF off sooner going forward. So this is still a bit up in the air. It still would need the Board of Commissioners to approve it, but I just wanted everybody to understand what's going on with this. And also our quote for resurfacing that road, the original one was $191,500. Well, everybody's seen what's going on with petroleum, what's going on with just general inflation. I'm afraid, since it's petroleum based, it's probably going to be more than that. So I did provide that information, and in my discussion with Commissioner Moore said that's the only one I can tell you, but I'm not going to hang my hat on that estimate. That's the estimate directly from the engineer we used for this grant application, but a lot has changed from the time we had to submit that application and today. And so we would have to get new estimates. But right now, in speaking with Bob Kleiber in the county engineer's office and Commissioner Moore, if it's doable, I think we've got a good chance, and I think they'll understand how this works in leveraging other funds so that we're assured this project gets funded versus taking the risk and then being told again, well, nice try, but apply again next year. So if there's no questions on that, I'm going to let that go, but if anybody else knows anyone they can talk with to help support this, to occur that way, it'd be appreciated. Okay, now Kevin, I'm going to move on to the next one dealing with roads. He mentioned the street standards. The trustees approved this street standard at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, and subsequent to that, we then received, oh no, wait a minute, because we've got a developer in the township that eventually will be putting in new roads. They said they could comply with it, but they were concerned we showed the tree lawn and driveway slope at an 8.3%. They said for low riding vehicles, they're going to scrape the bottom. Said it's not an issue with SUVs and trucks, so they wanted that slope reduced. I sent that information over to Bob Kleiber to get his thoughts. Bob said they're right. And so what he changed, if you look on here, I didn't bring the old drawing, should have done that, but if you look at the slope there, for the drive aprons. It just says slope coming off the 2% slope for the sidewalk. So in other words, they have some flexibility on that slope, but it still has to be sloping down towards the road, but it's no longer as steep as the one we did before. So what this resolution is really just adopting this new diagram, if you will, and superseding the previous resolution that we had passed at the last meeting. So yes, it was an 8.33% slope is what was on there in the past. And the last resolution number we passed was 2922, which is listed in the whereases. So with that, are there any questions on this or any concerns?
No.
Okay, if not, then I'm going to make a motion to adopt the general rules and regulations setting standards and requirements for the engineer standard for street development, Amherst Township, rescinding all previous resolutions regarding street development. You know, it's all as written here. That'll be my motion.
I'll second it.
If no further discussion, Chris, you want to do roll call, please?
Lynch,
Yes?
Abraham,
Yes.
Euring.
Yes.
And the number on that, Chris?
3522.
And Chris, again, if you can send a certified copy, but include the drawing, because in this particular resolution, it indicates that drawing is attached. And if you can email that to me also, if that's possible.
Okay.
Okay, and under parks, I just have one here, and Denny's told me already, he's still got to take care of this. This is with the Amherst Youth Soccer Association. We did receive a request. They'd like to construct a utility building in the park, and I don't know if you've seen this, Kevin, but similar to the one that's used for the baseball down there, so that they can store some of their painting equipment. So Denny's going to contact them because they also need to renew their agreement with the township, you know, and setting things up and getting their schedule. I'm sure they've got all new people involved in this. Kevin, for you, it's probably going to be making sure there's no obstructions for the way you guys get equipment through and whatnot. And I know no details as far as size, whether they need power. I mean, I really don't know. So Denny's going to take care of that one. Okay, Kevin mentioned the fluorescent to LED lighting conversion in the townships. I put that under Senior Service Township Administrator here. This is where Kevin did receive an estimate on this. The initial estimate was just a hair over where we've set our own internal policy in terms of the threshold value to go out and get additional values. I was just concerned since this one had already been shared, it might have been public. Kevin rechecked with the supplier who sharpened his pencil. It is going to be below $15,000, at least based on the quote. And what this will do is handle the sheriff's substation, this particular hall, and the administrative offices. If you look at the spreadsheet that's attached here, you know, and I realize all these fixtures are different, whether it's the fixtures behind us, the recessed fixtures that are actually going to be retrofitted, whether it's the main fixtures that are going to be replaced, but just taking an overall average based on the quote, it's roughly $171 per fixture. But in terms of the cost, and Linda had provided all this in an email, is we received the NOPEC Energized Community Grant to help offset the cost. That's $12,010. She also, with the application for the NOPEC Green Ribbon Grant, that's $2,500. And then Fiscal Officer Chris Kish has been in contact with OTARMA the option of using the Moore grant, which is $500, and to me, that's something Chris needs to find out. If not, we've got other safety issues we can use the Moore grant on. But if we can't use the Moore grant, we'll have to use some township general fund, but it's going to be very small. Because even with that Moore grant, we actually end up having $86 residual funds, excuse me, that would be used for some other safety device or whatnot, assuming nothing changes. Because with the supply chain interruptions that we've been seeing, and this quote was received, though it was sharpened after the invasion of Ukraine, who knows what can happen between now and then. So if you read through the details of the contract, you can see that for any commodity pricing, and this is going to be for materials, if it's more than 3% increase over what the supplier had here, that value above 3% will be in addition to the quoted conversion price of $14,924. So hopefully we don't see that, but all I would suggest, the way world and economic conditions are currently going, we probably do not want to hesitate to wait on getting this conversion done and getting the commitment to procuring the materials here so that the supplier, in this case Butchko, can start accumulating the materials before they come in and start doing the renovation. I don't know if there's any questions, if someone wants to bring this to the floor.
Nope, let's vote on it.
Okay. Then I'll make the motion for the fluorescent to LED light conversion in the township hall, office, and sheriff substation.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Roll call then, Chris?
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
And that number is?
3622.
3622.
Kevin and Linda, between you two, if you can coordinate, let Butchko know, so nothing else, they can at least start getting materials lined up. And Linda, I assume you'll work with Chris as far as the more funding and which way it goes, but that's not going to be an issue using the funds. It's just if we can use them on the lighting.
Right.
Okay, and there is the lighting to me, Chris, if you're trying to sell it, biggest thing is you have to change a fixture up here now, Kevin, or just the bulbs. What do? Drag out a ladder, right? Get on up there, and then you're handling a fluorescent bulb which has mercury in it. While you're on a ladder and bring them down, they can break, and the mercury's not a lot. It's still an issue that you've got up there. So to me, that improves safety. Someone can argue as far as the better lighting, but I think a real issue is going to be the safety of our guys going up and down. As we've looked at before in terms of cost savings, because we don't have the hall lights on all the time, it's not so much the energy, it's the material and labor costs of that change. That's where your real cost is, going up and doing that. So for us, it'd be different if the lights were on all the time, but we've gone through those estimates before. So we're real fortunate. I appreciate everybody that worked on putting the grants together and getting this done to get this project funded. Okay, the last item I have deals with the, I've got no report on Lorco, so this will be on the Phase 2 MS4 in terms of stormwater, and obviously we've discussed a lot here as far as keeping clean stormwater, but we did receive a correspondence from Matt Arnold. I just want to make sure everybody has this. Basically, they're saying street sweepings and catch basin spoils can no longer be added to the materials pile that we use to, smooth out the road going to the recycling yard. We got to put it in the dumpster according to this. That one's not tonight. I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
And you have on this document on the back is the information that Matt sent over from the EPA. Now, unless we want to ask the EPA, because they do give the option to get their approval to use it that way. You know, EPA's concern is, hey, you've got all sorts of motor oils, you've got some hazardous metals can be in there, you could have broken glass in there. You know, so they're treating this as if you've got to dispose of it in a solid waste facility. To me, is almost contrary to their other part where we're doing all this recycling because the EPA doesn't want us to consume landfills. But with this, Kevin, until and if we make a change, you're going to have to put it in the dumpster. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, and we can check on this because some of the guys at the EPA are reasonable to say, hey, wait a minute, you know, this stuff is coming from the road, going back to a road, to get to a yard waste recycling center, you know, it's, so it's going to get some filtering the way the lay of that land is, so you can always say long-term it gets to a storm sewer. It's not going directly into now a storm sewer that's getting quickly to the lake. So, and if they say no, that's fine. We'll just take a few tons of road sweepings and put it in the landfill.
I told him, don't even have the road swept anymore. Let all the debris go into the catch basins in the storm sewer.
Pardon? No, we want to take it out. I mean, this is what, we've got to comply with the law. I'm not sure, I did ask, I want to know what the other communities are doing. Maybe they are doing this. I don't know, but I was looking at some of our local roads here as I was driving around, and you know, the ones that never get swept outside our community, and thinking, I'm watching it come down the hill, and it's like, well, I know where that's going, and
That's what I was saying, so.
yeah, maybe they decided street sweeping's a problem, just stop street sweeping, right?
Yep.
That's, let's see, complaints.
I just got one thing under complaints, that street light.
Yes.
We were talking about for the last month. That's fixed. I can
Okay,
take that
so I
off.
can, thanks,
That was
David.
back on. E Drive and Rustic.
Okay. And Remy, there's the one property maintenance issue there on Rosedale.
That's taken care of?
Okay, that's done.
Yes.
And I know though it didn't make it as a complaint now, you've got the information requested for that other property maintenance issue to take care of.
Correct.
Okay. The last bit of information, again, it's still dealing with stormwater. I don't know if they got out, but Matt Arnold and Jessica Haslowski were to walk the Batten House ditch today. I don't know if that happened. That's to get the information so we can get this grant put together that's due at the end of this month. But I don't know what more we can do. I'm hoping that when they went through, they could take more photos since they could get into areas we could not at the time. So with that, I've covered everything I need to cover. For the other items that trustees have responsibility for, is there anything that needs to be brought up? If not, our next regular meeting will be at 7 o'clock Tuesday, March 22nd. And any need for any work session, Kevin? Okay.
March 22nd.
March 22nd, 7 o'clock p.m. Audience is all gone. Is there any need for an executive session? If none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Erie?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.